What makes African and third world debt different from the American debt? Number one, America is never going to pay its debts. It doesn't have to. Its debts are in its own currency. We can simply print it. The African debt is not in its currency. The African debt is in U.S. dollars. Africa has to earn the U.S. dollars, and the only way it can earn the U.S. dollars is not to be assassinated for growing its own food and becoming independent and doing something that the United States does not like. The principle underlying the foundation of the World Bank, the International Bank for
IMF, World Bank, all other institutions, they make African countries jump through hoops. Loans will never be able to pay. The US, when they borrow money, they're getting it in 1.5, 1.9 interest rate. Africans, when they get the same amount of money, they're paying 9, 10%. The people who don't need a break, they get a break. The ones who need a break, they don't get a break. The sheer survival of the World Bank, IMF, is based on the fact that African countries and many other developing countries do not succeed. Their success is based on our failure. That has to change. And guess who can make that change? We, the children of Africa, we, the Africans, are the ones who have to say, we know your game now. Enough is enough. We're not playing it anymore. And this is where the diaspora come in. They're more IMF, World Bank, all other institutions, they make African countries jump through hoops. Loans will never be able to pay. The US, when they borrow money, they're getting it in 1.5, 1.9 interest rate. Africans, when they get the same amount of money, they're paying 9, 10%. The people who don't need a break, they get a break. The ones who need a break, they don't get a break. The sheer survival of the World Bank, IMF, is based on the fact that African countries and many other developing countries do not succeed. Their success is based on our failure. That has to change. And guess who can make that change? We, the children of Africa, we, the Africans, are the ones who have to say, we know your game now. Enough is enough. We're not playing it anymore. And this is where the diaspora come in.
Welcome to African Spotlight 24, your premier source for news and current affairs from across the continent. We're glad you're here. If you're new to our channel, please subscribe, like, and turn on notification to stay up to date with the latest news and analysis. Your support helps us reach more people. Disclaimer: the content of this video is based on credible, publicly available information and is intended for educational, analytical, and informational purposes only. African Spotlight 24 does not promote hate, violence, misinformation, or political unrest. Our goal is to deliver thoughtful insights, highlight local voices, and encourage informed conversations throughout Africa. Breaking. The International Monetary Fund is accusing Ghana of manipulating its currency. But is it really about economics or something far deeper? Is this an attack on African sovereignty? When the US prints money, it's called stimulus. But when Ghana defends the Cedi, it's suddenly currency manipulation? Get ready, because what you're about to hear will change the way you look at global finance forever. In the last few months, the Ghanaian Cedi has shown surprising strength. After years of volatility, inflation, and external debt pressure, Ghana has made moves to stabilize its economy. One of the biggest tools? Injecting US dollars into the financial system to support the Cedi. But this is not unusual. In fact, every major economy in the world uses its central bank to stabilize its currency. The US Federal Reserve does it. The European Central Bank does it. Even Japan uses this tactic regularly. So why is Ghana being singled out? Analysts say the Bank of Ghana's strategy is working, helping local businesses, reducing inflation, and boosting investor confidence. But not everyone is happy. Enter the International Monetary Fund. Just as Ghana's CDI begins to stabilize, the IMF fires back, claiming the government may be interfering with market dynamics. But let's be clear, this isn't new. The IMF has a long history of policing African economies, especially when they don't follow Washington's script. When the US floods its economy with trillions of dollars, that's quantitative easing. When Europe adjusts interest rates to control the euro, that's monetary policy. But when an African country supports its currency, that's manipulation. There's a pattern here, and it's one of economic double standards. Ghana is not just defending its economy, it's defending its independence. And that, some argue, is what really scares the IMF. Let's ask a bold question. Does Africa really control its own money? The truth is disturbing. From the CFA franc in West Africa, still tied to the French treasury, to IMF conditionalities that dictate how African nations must run their economies, Africa's economic sovereignty has always been under threat. Now, countries like Ghana are saying, enough is enough. By using its own financial tools to stabilize the Cedi, Ghana is sending a message to the world. We will not be puppets. But that message comes with consequences. Let's take a brief look at the IMF's track record in Africa. In the 1980s and 1990s, IMF imposed structural adjustment programs, forced African countries to cut public services, privatize industries, and open their markets to foreign exploitation. Countries were told to stop subsidizing food, education, and healthcare, all in the name of fiscal discipline. The result? Mass poverty, rising inequality, and decades of lost development. Today, the IMF comes with a new face, softer language, friendlier branding. But many African economists argue the agenda remains the same. Keep Africa dependent. Ghana is doing something bold. Instead of bowing to pressure, President John Dramani Mahama's government is doubling down on its economic strategy. The Bank of Ghana continues to inject dollars into the system when necessary. New local investment programs are being launched. Ghana is actively seeking non-Western partnerships from China, Turkey, and African neighbors to diversify its economic base. And the Cedi, it's not collapsing, it's holding strong. Ghana is proving that African nations can write their own economic rules and succeed. Let's be real. The West has always played by one set of rules for itself and a different one for the rest of the world. The U.S. government spent over $5 trillion in COVID stimulus. Did anyone accuse it of market interference? The European Union imposes export bans, subsidies, and tariffs. But Africa is told to open its markets freely. This isn't about economic fairness, it's about power. The IMF is panicking because Ghana, and Africa at large, is no longer playing the victim. It's playing to win. Ghana is not alone. Across Africa, a quiet revolution is brewing. Burkina Faso, under Captain Ibrahim Traoré, is nationalizing resources. Niger and Mali have thrown out French troops and IMF contracts. Botswana, Namibia, and Tanzania are renegotiating mining deals. Even the African Union is under pressure to stop being a puppet institution and start standing up for the continent. This is Pan-African economic independence in motion, and it terrifies the institutions that have benefited from Africa's poverty. Imagine an Africa where central banks are free from foreign control, natural resources are processed locally, currencies are strong, respected, and backed by real productivity. Trade happens between African countries, not just with Europe, China, or the US. This is not a fantasy. It's a vision that leaders like Mahama, Traoré, and others are pursuing.